Hello everyone, welcome back to the show. My guest today is Dr. Cindy Stark. She's a medical doctor with 2 doctorates, an entrepreneur, mentor, and an author. A lot of people struggle with their daily lives, whether was it because their early childhood experiences or some sort of an accident, but everyone can lift themselves up and reach the top. And Dr. Stark is a living proof of that. So why is it important to believe in yourself? How to heal after trauma? How to stop being an overachiever? Why the American healthcare system is so bad again, why you should move to Poland, and a lot more is covered on this episode. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Cindy Stark. Dr. Stark, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so excited to be here with your audience.
Thanks for coming. I was captivated by your story, so let's dive into it. You've had a very difficult early life experiences, and it's springboard for a personal and professional success. So could you describe how you did this? Was there any sort of grind or epiphany or a method that you've adapted to help you do this?
Yeah, so I do like to start by telling my story, and I know I think so many people in a way are impressed that I have 2 doctorate degrees, but I want people to know I came from a very humble, dysfunctional upbringing, and I come from a blue collar family. That's what we call it here in America, like the working class. Hairdressers, all the women are hairdressers, and all the men are electricians. And I could see as I was going through high school, I was a lot smarter than most of the people. I had like really good grades, and I was a valedictorian, and no one else in my family had really been like that. So that kind of made me think maybe I could do something different than cutting hair. But when I was 14, I guess I put you about in middle school. My brother, he was struggling with drugs and alcohol. He's 19 years old, and as if it wasn't enough for my brother to be struggling and that chaos and fighting kind of being in my house all the time, he would have some friends over all the time, people that got kicked out of their houses, Mike. And so they were now multiple 19-year-old boys in my house when I was 14, and they were all on drugs and alcohol. And I'm not sure why, but my mom and my dad thought it would be okay to go up to a neighbor's house and have parties and leave me with my brother and all these friends. And some things started happening. First, they tried to get me to smoke pot. They tried to get me to drink alcohol. And I was just 14. I was so young. But then, and I would, withstand and resist that, but most times. But then things would happen to me when I would go to bed. I really had repressed this memory until quite recently, actually, about 4 years ago when the pandemic was here. But they would come into my room at night when I was sleeping, and his drunk and horny friends, I guess, would start touching me in places I did not want to be touched. I didn't even want them in my bedroom. And I did not I didn't have the courage, I guess, to tell my mom and dad what was going on because my brother was already in so much trouble. And I know these boys were in a really bad way. And so I just kind of like internalized it and just kind of shut down and act like it wasn't happening. And I just said, as soon as I get the crap out of high school, I'm out of here, And I saw education as a way out of what I was going through. And so I don't know, Mike, sometime like about 20 years after practicing medicine, I kind of found myself being an overachiever, like the 2 doctorates. I did this Ironman triathlon. I was being this mother extraordinaire, volunteering for all the things, wearing myself out. And I started looking around me, and I realized there's a lot of doctors, female doctors and healthcare workers hurting and kind of feeling lonely and isolated, and they were just all being overworked. And so I started a journey of self-healing and just self-discovery. I hired some coaches. I went to some retreats, and I remembered these things that happened to me when I was 14. And I think I'd been running on this autopilot programming of I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of protection from my parents. I'm not worthy of love from a man. I'm just, like a sex object or something like that. And so when I cleared out all that head trash, I was able to finally reach down my hand, Mike, and realize like there's people around me that are hurting and they're struggling with self-forgiveness. Like I think a part of me thought all that was my fault. and it wasn't my fault. I was just I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I just started helping other people get them out of the doldrums and out of this black pit of loneliness and despair. And so now I've just kind of really dedicated the second half of my life to not only helping men and women in healthcare, that's just who I've been around with most of the time because I've been a doctor for so long, but it's really a common thread against all across all humans is that we're living these lives of quiet desperation, and we just want somebody to listen to us and support us and help us identify limiting patterns that are in our brains and get rid of them. So that's kind of who I am and where I am right now and how I got there.
This is so great to hear that, well, you actually persevered through that, because I hear a lot of horrible stories from people, and the things that I read on the internet, sometimes I will tell you those, but I'm really scared that YouTube algorithms or Spotify will just, well, kill me. But I can tell you of the show, but it's so great to hear that you managed to do that. But how did you just turn around and maybe stopped being this overachiever? Why don't you just realize that, like, you are enough, you're worthy of doing all of that?
It's when it's like I can feel myself getting choked up about it. So I had, it just wasn't enough. Nothing was ever enough, and I was in this really bad relationship with my kid's dad, and I didn't feel loved again, and I'm like, I just want to feel important. I just want to feel like I can do anything I want to do in the world. And so I signed up for this triathlon, and I hired a trainer, and he didn't tell me to do one of the sprint triathlons that lasts for an hour and a half. He didn't tell me to do an Olympic size one that lasts for about 2.5 hours, or a half Ironman, which lasts for about 7 or 8 hours. He said, let's see the limits of a human body, and we're going to take you. You've never, ran or biked or swim for a long distance, and we're going to go for the absolute longest one there is, which is the Ironman, 17 hours of an event, endurance, an endurance athletic event. I'm not an athlete, Michael. I am like a bookworm, and I'm a mom. I'm not an athlete. And so, but I wanted to see what I was capable of, and I trained for 2 years, and despite my best efforts of training and all this great nutrition and training plans, the day of the event, I didn't finish. I kind of got off track on my swimming. I kind of got lost a little bit on my biking, and I wasn't far enough along in the race. And they literally pulled my butt right off of the track 8 hours in. And there was 50 other people too. There were hundreds and hundreds of athletes that day, but they pulled about 50 of us off of the course that day because we weren't fast enough. And so after I wasn't going to have my story end like that. So I trained again and crossed the dang finish line. And that's what my book is about. We can get into that later. But at that time, after 2 years of spending 21 hours a week training for something and seeing that you can still not finish despite all your best plans, I said, maybe you're being an overachiever, Cindy, and maybe you need to really look into this and what's driving you, because you're wearing yourself slap out. And that's when I hired my first counselor in 2016, and I just started a really long journey of self-discovery and what was driving all these behaviors, and I finally just snapped out of it, and I realized that I'm enough just like I am. I'm worthy of rest. I'm worthy of time, just like sitting in the woods and reflecting on God's green nature. And so, yeah, I just got out of it. It was a long process. I had to literally rewire my brain. It took me a few years, but now I really try to prioritize myself over everything, and I don't overachieve anymore, thankfully.
Well, still congratulations that you attempted Ironman, because those in the audience who don't know, Ironman is a huge race that consists of swimming, cycling, and running. I do not remember how many kilometers that is.
Yeah, it's 2.4 miles of swimming, and then it is 120 miles of biking, and then it is a 26.2 mile running race, a road race on your feet.
Yeah, so about double that in kilometers, just roughly. Yeah.
Yep.
But still, like, it's a pinnacle of just endurance. And we in Poland here have a sort of similar story, because we had even a movie made about it, and I've met this guy. I even had the swimming lessons with him. His name is Jurek Górski, and he was this drug addicted guy who just went all over, like hit rock bottom, but then he discovered sports and endurance and running, and he was doing so many events, and then he was the first Polish guy who went and beat the record or some sort on Ironman, and he did that. And there was a movie about him, and I watched this movie, and then I saw how hard Ironman is, because all this was documented all. So that's a huge thing.
It's funny. So I just want to show you my book. I'm so proud of this book. It's a little tiny baby book. It's only like 80 pages, but this was all about the failure at my first Ironman and into the finish line of my second one. And my dad was reading this. It says, "Unleash your potential and discover the champion within." And my dad was reading it, and he said, "I had no idea that your journey to that race was so hard, Cindy. You never talked about it." I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, you don't talk about it. You just do it, And he's a runner. He was a runner in high school, and I'd always done like 5Ks and things like that, but never anything longer than that. And just the grit that you have to undertake every day just to eat the right food, Mike, and get the right sleep. And no matter what is you want to do in a day, you have to get that run or that bike or that swim in you might be able to train for 6 months and do it. But the way I did it, it took 2 years, because I just was so behind where most people are when they're starting. But I enjoyed it, and it was I'm glad that I did it. And right now I'm just really glad to not be doing that. And now I just walk, and I spend a lot of time in nature, and I like to lift weights, but I don't do anything like that again,
Okay. Yeah, maybe call it bro science, but I think like running has 3 stages. The first one is the muscle stage, where you just use your muscles, you sprint, you give it all you got. The second is the endurance stage, where just your heart, your endurance just keeps pounding and carrying you through. But the second stage, the longest and the last one, is the psychic stage. So it's like psychological stage. That just your mental toughness is carrying you through the race. And I may not be good at 2 stages at first, but
excuse me.
Bless you.
I like that. Muscle, endurance, and then psychological.
Yeah.
That is exactly it too. It's if I would miss one workout, I'll never forget my trainer, or my coach, he would say, "Why didn't you do that sprint bike?" It was always the sprint bike that I didn't want to do. So every week you had to do a sprint bike, swim and run, and then a long distance bike, swim and run. And then you could take a day off. But it was always the sprint bike that I hated more than anything. And, right when I very first started the training process, I fell down off my bike, and I broke a ligament in my thumb. I had to get reconstructive surgery. And so, I started my whole Ironman training with a $17,000 reconstructive surgery and a cast for 6 weeks. And I was so mad at myself. It was like literally day number 5 of my training. And it was just one thing after another. And that's what the book is all about too, is like, the mental toughness. Like, you cannot let that stop you. You just got to keep going. So, I know exactly what you're talking about. But anyway, what I was going to say is, my trainer, my coach, he would say, why didn't you do that, what you were supposed to do today at 4:00? And I said, I'll never forget this one time. I said, there was this fun meeting that one of my friends was hosting. It was, like an informational meeting for some nutritional supplements that she was selling. And he said, "But you had a sprint bike on your schedule today." I'm like, "Yeah, but I was going to get to it later, but then the sun went down." And anyway, he would just dig and dig and dig until he could find out what mental block I had, and what it ended up, he thought it was, and I think he was probably right, is that I was trying to people please and be there socially for everybody that didn't matter, instead of being there for myself. So I finally got to a point where I just stopped skipping any of the workouts. And then the results came faster. And once you know that you're going to be able to do it, it just gets so exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you know David Goggins?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I know who he is, and I've listened to little snippets of him, but I've never read one of his books.
Yeah, well, me neither, but I know the whole idea and like the
Yes.
persona he is. And this guy is after 2 heart surgeries, and he is still bloody running,
Yeah.
swimming, cycling, just going to the gym, breaking records. And he is an ex-Navy SEAL who can
Yes.
make millions of dollars, literally millions of dollars, just speaking on an event. Okay, and he chooses to be the firefighter that jumps into the forest where there's no way to just get by normal measures. So he's parachuting to the forest where is fire to put it out. He's paid pennies for it, and he's still choosing to do that.
I didn't know that part of the story, but I do know the first part of his story where he was overweight and he was not the right race and, or nationality. And he had his mind set on being a Navy SEAL. And so he did everything he had to become who he wanted to be.
Yeah, well, I listened to a podcast when he appeared on Andrew Huberman, and then when they were talking, Andrew just said this really interesting thing about the prefrontal cortex, or that there is this thing inside our brains that when we do something that we don't want to do, that like is hard, stressful, but we still do it despite the fact this thing. I'm sorry, I'm not the scientist.
Growth.
This thing grows, and then the people that live the longest have this thing really, really big. So when you do something that you don't want to do, that is hard, but you persevere through it, you will live longer. So because this is the sort of purpose of our bodies or mind, I know.
Yep, it's either the precingulate gyrus or something like that. I know that part of that brain, and I can't remember the exact name of it either, but they can measure it, and you're right. It's just this mental toughness where nothing's going to stop you.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, me too. And if there's someone in the audience with like horrible past experiences as a child or even their adult life, what advice would you give to that person right now?
I will tell them that it does not matter what your generational background is or what your own personal background is, that you are not defined by your past. So many people say people never change, or that's just the way I am. That's not true. It's completely possible. And I always want to say it's simple, but not easy. But it is simple to rewire your brain so that you are not living by those filtering systems that were developed in you by the age of 7 years old. So this part of your subconscious mind, Mike, is called the reticular activating system. And it was what houses all of our belief systems and our filtering, our filters, societal programming, religious programming, parental programming, all of that, even academic programming and your familial programming. And it's fully developed by the time we're age 7. And so if you find yourself, later in life and you had something in your past that was traumatic, and it doesn't have to be traumatic like mine, sexual abuse. It can be witnessing your grandfather die, or being involved in a car accident, or failing out of 4th grade. I mean, it can be anything. But if you have anything like that in your background, just know that there is a really easy, really simple but not easy system where you can get rid of all what is holding you back as far as what is in your filtering systems and your programming, and you can implant new belief systems that support your dreams. So it's just never too late, is my point.
And what is that system?
Well, I teach it. It's called the trauma release method, and you are literally going in with meditations. I was trained in an institute where we were with 7 or 8 people at one time. We went through a year-long training program to get certified in the trauma healing method. And it's kind of complicated and it might sound woo, but you're asking me what it is. So I'm just going to sit here and tell you what it is. So you, the first thing you do is you come up with a list of everything that has influenced you in your life. The first people are always going to be your mom and dad, and then sisters and brothers, aunts, uncles, grandparents, and then every people, place, or thing that made you who you are to this day and time. So for me, it was a lot of schooling. It was a church. It was, it was boyfriends, it was a husband, kids, and then myself, right? So you come up with this list, normally somewhere between 15 and 30 influences. And then step by step, you do this meditation. I have mine recorded. I also can do it like in person, like on Zoom, and we pull up all of your inner children, specifically from age 0 to 7, 7 to 14, 14 to 21, and then 21 to now. So those are 4 different psychological stages. And we ask that version of your inner child, under like a slight hypnosis and under meditation, what does anger have to say to that influence, to like Emory Medical School, where I went to medical school? Or what does sadness have to say? What does fear have to say? What does guilt have to say? And then it's kind of hard to explain without actually going through the process. And I would love to offer you this process like after the show. But if it interests you, because it's wild what'll come up and how much healing can happen just like on the spot. But we resource your inner children that were affected by that influence. And then we are able to kind of reach an observer's point of view with that influence by doing this thing called drop down through the heart and cutting the cords. And anyway, it's a 5-step process, Mike, but it's a beautiful, all-encompassing healing process. And it might sound kind of crazy that you're talking to your 7-year-old version of yourself, or you're literally under hypnosis and meditation talking, but it is healing like no other types of healing. I've had clients actually get off of antidepressants because of this, anti-anxiety medicine because of it, lose 40 pounds because of it. I mean, it's really almost like a factory reboot of your brain. It just gets rid of everything negative that's ever happened in your life that's been running the show.
Wow.
It's really cool.
Well, it sounds really cool, but would it be cheesy to put a date that didn't work out on those influences?
No, no.
As the only thing.
No. I mean, it'll be in addition to everybody else,
Okay.
Absolutely not. If it affected you negatively, it goes on the list.
I won't say negatively, but it gave me this sort of like punch through the gut that I should take care of myself and do something with my life.
Absolutely. She goes on the list. He or she goes on the list. Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. Well, let's maybe delve a little bit into your academic endeavors. I want to ask you, like you said that your background, your family is from a blue-collar job. So wouldn't you think that how they react when you just went to the academia route? Because a lot of parents would say, some would be proud, but some would say, like, what are you doing? You'll never get a life out of this. Just go to this trade school or something like that and live a life.
Yeah. No, nobody said that part. Nobody said, what are you doing? Just go to trade school. But they just, it was really tough actually to hear, but it was like little snarky comments where I could just tell nobody was able to relate to me anymore. They would literally say, "Oh, you're too smart for us," or "We can't talk to you anymore. You're almost a doctor." And I'm like, gosh, I'm the same person I've always been. Please don't say you can't talk to me anymore. Nothing has changed. I'm still Cindy, And even some of my older aunts and uncles would say that we would have these big family reunions, every summer. And the closer and closer I got to graduation, they would act like they didn't have anything in common with me anymore. And, that really hurt because this is just what I chose to do. I'm not criticizing them for doing what they are doing. And I really don't want to be criticized for what I decided to do. But my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, I mean, they're just nothing but just really proud of me. And my dad has always said one thing that is, I think, it's just so sweet. And he just said, I just can't believe a child of mine had the gumption to even try to do this. Like he would have never tried to do something like that. Like not even go to college, much less one doctorate, then another doctorate. And so, yeah, everybody's mostly just proud of me. It's just some distant relatives that act like it has made me unapproachable, but that's not the truth. So I never liked that.
So it kind of goes similar to the saying that money doesn't change you, it changes everyone around you. So for you, it was the academic endeavor didn't change you, but a lot of people around you.
Yeah. Yeah. And the older I've gotten, I'm in therapy every week. I have I call her an executive coach. She helps me realize, different people have different abilities to buy things in life, or, like I'll never forget my college roommate. She'll say, Cindy, you don't, so I know we'll get into this in a little bit, but I completely got, what is the word I'm looking for, Mike? Not unsatisfied, maybe unsatisfied with
Okay.
being a full-time doctor and only being a full-time doctor. And that's when I started seeing those men and women in the hospital suffering. And I said, I've got to do something to help myself, and then also to help my fellow man and woman in the hospital setting. But I said, I just can't stay here and work this hospital job anymore. I can't do clinic job anymore. It's so confining. I have to stay here from 8 to 5, or sometimes 7 in the morning till 9 at night. I just got to get out. And I want to become a coach. I want to become a coach for people in the second halves of their lives. It doesn't just have to be healthcare workers. It can be anybody. It doesn't just have to be women. It can be men too. And I've had men clients. But my college roommate said, well, can't you just find another doctor job that you'll like? And I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I think once you kind of believe bigger and your mind is expanded, you can't shrink back down. It's like once a kid starts walking, they can't unwalk. They can't unlearn to walk and just like, no, I'm just going to crawl for the rest of my life now. And so, I don't know, I feel like I'm getting off on a little bit of a tangent, but yeah, I just, it was crazy the kind of dissenting opinions I would get along the way. It happened not only as I was getting educated, but then as I was leaving the profession. So yeah, people just want you to be how they are, Mike.
Yeah.
That you need to fit in their little tiny box.
Yeah. This is the thing, that they root for you until you surpass them.
It's so infuriating. And, I find myself, I have 2 kids. They're 21 and 19. And, they've both been waiters and waitresses. And they think like the most they could ever make for their life is $20 an hour. And they think $20 an hour is just like the holy grail, And I'm like,
people
y'all
who
could
make so much money, like for a minute, basically. Like a few podcasts ago, I had Nick Hutchinson on the show. He makes reviews of the book. Sorry to interrupt your speech, by the way. He makes reviews for the books, and he recommends books, and he's this whole YouTube channel and podcast about books and different authors and spiritual journeys. And he wanted to ask Russell Brunson for advice. Do you know who Russell Brunson is or not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he said, okay, maybe you should he will set a budget for $5,000 or so. And they contacted his associate of a manager of his. And he told them that, well, half an hour of Russell's time is $250,000. So make your mind. So.
Wow. That is crazy. I had no idea. Say it again. A half an hour is $250,000.
Yes.
That's what it would cost you?
Yes.
Wow. And you know what? The people who hire him, that is what they are worth,
Well, yeah.
He's going to only attract people that can afford to hire him at that rate.
Yeah. Like he's even not the peak of the mountain. There are so many different people that their time would cost even more. So.
Yeah. Well, that's right. Limiting beliefs. And that's what I told my kids. I said, don't ever think that you're only worth $20 an hour. I said, you are teenagers and you've had one job each. And that's the most that you've made is $20 an hour, but you're going to make so much more than that. And you'll also, that money is not the be all end all. It's what you do with your life. I was listening to a podcast last night, and they said, if you don't take care of what's inside your house, meaning your family, and even if you live alone, then just your relationship with yourself and with your home, and how you take care of this emotional home of yours. But if you have a family, then your husband, your wife, your kids, if you don't take care of what's within these 4 walls of your house, nothing that you do outside of the house even matters, because nobody even wants to be around you, Mike, when all you do is care about making money. So I tell my kids that too. It's not all about the money either. Just be a good person, be a good friend. And anyway, they're both musicians, and so they both see how people that weren't raised like them, how like up on stage and in rehearsals, like they don't help each other. And so I think they're kind of teaching their little tiny microcosms of the world. They're teaching them how to be good people and help each other out in the music industry and everything because of the way they were raised, that's the best we
Absolutely.
can hope for.
Yeah, there's this great, like this saying from Morgan Housel that if you cannot be happy with a cup of coffee, you will not be happy on a yacht, and that is very true too.
Oh, that's so good. That is awesome. Yes, I love that.
Yeah, also listening to different podcasts. There's, I think Chris Williamson was recently saying a lot about Will Smith and his journey, his story. That at the beginning he was sad and lonely and miserable, and then he thought that he'll be successful and have money and fame. He will not be miserable and unhappy. But then he had all the money and success, but he was still unhappy. So,
yeah, I didn't know that. I don't know his story that much.
yeah, well, Will Smith was recently on the news when he slapped Chris Rock because he said a joke about his wife that was just cheating on him. So, well, yeah. I don't also know the whole story, but like I can understand that he is not a very happy person right now.
I just think that shows so much like what's going on inside him that he would choose that setting to be openly, violently aggressive. And I just cannot believe that Chris Rock was able to kind of hold it together like he did.
What would you do? Like a superstar like Will Smith goes on up the stage and slaps you. How would you react? It's like system shutdown. You don't know what to do.
Talk about going into fight or flight. You're just in freeze. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. You're just in freeze at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Okay, getting back to that. Well, how have you hold your motivations through gaining one PhD and the next one and just holding through the whole academic endeavors?
There was only one way. Yeah, I will tell you. The journey to medical school and the journey to graduate school was so completely different. Medical school, this is how I saw it, Mike. They showed you this 20 little hoops, and all you had to do was just walk through every hoop and you would become an MD. PhD grad school was not like that at all. They just kind of show you this wide open space and they're like, the finish line is down there at the end and you have to like find your way through it. I mean, there were some hoops, don't get me wrong. I mean, we had classes, we had a thesis committee, we had all these presentations we had to do. We had to write our dissertation, defend our dissertation. But it was the time in between. I always say I quit 7 times. I never told anybody about it. It was just all inside my head. But I quit grad school 7 times. It was so difficult to hold the motivation. And I would go and tell my mom and my dad, I said, I just can't do this anymore. It's too hard. My system that I was working on to get my PhD was a bacteria. And I had to mutate the bacteria DNA and then do experiments on them. And when my bacteria would die and or something would happen and like I would be like, set back 2 or 3 days, I would just get so frustrated. But I just kept remembering my purpose and my why. And I think the thing that really helped me a lot was that there were always other people doing it with me. And so if I quit, it wasn't just going to be on me. I would also affect all of my classmates, and we all wanted to finish together. And so there were 7 of us that started the program together, and I think 6 of us graduated. We didn't graduate together. A couple of them took 2 more years longer than me, 2 years longer than me. But yeah, just I didn't want to let myself down, and I didn't want to let my classmates down. So that's what kept me going. And seeing other people, misery loves company. So seeing other people in the same situation as me definitely helped.
Oh, well, I'll be writing my bachelor's next year, so you'll see how it goes.
Okay, good luck. If you need any help or encouragement, you call me.
Oh, thank you. I will. I have a lot of people to rely on, but I had a completely different experience in regards to parents and how they react to education, because I had this 1-year break from college because I wanted to establish my own company and do all these different things, because I was like infused with all the like motivation, inspiration, and like gurus pitching me on their services and courses. I wanted to become an entrepreneur and do all these things, and they it was only a year's break. I was still in college. I was still a student. I would just go back next year. But their reaction when I told them was like, I've quit college to become some sort of a circus dancer. They basically excommunicated me, but then they just came to their senses. So in my family, sorry, was this, they're always for education foresight, you need to study because you will just end up not respected and everyone will look down on you. Like you need to do this.
Yeah, that's tough, and that's too bad. And I'll tell you, Mike, back in the 80s, when I graduated high school, we just didn't even have computers back then. I mean, literally, I don't even think I got my first computer until 1994, maybe 5 or 6 or 7, somewhere around then. I don't know. But I didn't know anything about an entrepreneur. I'd never known anything about all these wonderful thought leaders that I follow now. And so if I had grown up when you had grown up, it would have been really tough to go to college, because I'll tell you, I think most people can come up with something in their head that is really successful. They can help people through something that they themselves have gone through, more so than what you learn by the book. So good for you for following your own heart. That's awesome.
Thank you.
But you're going to go back now, you said.
But I'm still here. Like it was a year ago. So
you never left.
Right now. No. I'm still in college doing that. Well, useless kind of work. I don't learn anything, honestly, but I just do it so they do not disown me. Let's say.
What I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I mean, my kids, they see what I've done, and I literally make more right now working 9 days a month than I made when I worked 22 days a month as a full-time doctor. And I'm so much happier and so much more well-rounded and well-rested and just a more pleasant person to be around. And they're like, I don't want to go to college. I don't see how you can do this. How did you get 2 doctorate degrees, Mom? I can't focus this much. I can't concentrate. Anyway, my son, he said, all I can do is a bachelor's degree. And he chose the one that was the least, painful, and he can't take more than 10 or 12 hours at a time because it just stresses him out. And he's like, I don't care how long it's going to take me to graduate. I can't do these 17 hours at a time, so they put a lot of boundaries up on themselves to keep them safe and healthy, because it will drive you crazy if you play your life by someone else's rule books.
Yeah, absolutely. And any valuable lessons for those who also want to go the academic route and become a doctor or a medical doctor?
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, I have a young lady that I'm kind of mentoring right now. She's one of my daughter's really good friends, and I just have to tell her, no matter what happens, even if you have something that you fail at, just keep the faith that you can do it, and don't let anybody else tell you what you can do or what you can't do. It's medical school is really hard, and it's kind of built from the chin up, and it's like the same thing what you were talking about, muscle endurance, psychological. At some point it just turns out to be psychological, and you just have to believe in yourself enough. No matter what the grades say. I always tell people, what do they call the person who graduates with the lowest GPA in the medical school class? Doctor. Like, you'll still be a doctor, so just get rid of the perfectionism and just go after whatever is in your heart. So yeah.
Well, I hate the grading system because it's sort of ties your value to the bloody letter or a number on the screen or on the paper. You are not that. You are not that.
You are not a number. You're not a number on a scale. You're not a number on the grading system. None of that. You're so right. And like I said before, it's really what's in your heart and what kind of person you are. There's never been a single patient that's asked me, where did I graduate from? What did I make on my MCATs? What did I make on my GRE, the SAT, my GPA in college, GPA? No one cares. Step 1, step 2 of the boards. No one has ever asked me that. Those are just minimal little metrics that they have to kind of push you through. I just think of it as like a cattle, through I can't think of the words right now, but they're just shoving you through a system like a herd of cattle, and that doesn't matter anything. Just keep going. If you're not a good test taker, I'm not a good test taker, then the minimum requirement is the amount that's required to become a doctor, and you're fine if you don't do great on those tests. I just think people beat themselves up with perfectionism so bad, Mike.
Absolutely. Well, my father is a cardiologist, and he has a lot of his colleagues and their kids, and he tells me that well, they made them go to medical school and do all these things and become a doctor, but they don't want to do that. And he then sees his different colleagues from work that did that route, have taken that route, and are really, really unhappy because they did it for the money or because their parents told them to, and they just, they are not happy with their lives because this is not what they wanted to do, and they suffered, persevered, and they don't know what to do right now because all the prime years were wasted for them.
That breaks my heart. Yeah, no one told me I had to do this, and this was nobody's idea but my own. This was all on me. This was all my decision. It was no one else's idea. So I was really happy that I did it because it's what I wanted to do. But then, after I did it for 30 years, I was ready to get out. And so that's what I did too. And, now I only work, about 2 days a week, and it's just perfect because I get 5 days to do my passion projects. I'm helping people and coaching people, and I'm speaking, and I haven't started. Well, I have started my next book. I wrote this one book in 2016, and I've already had written the skeleton copies of my next book. And there's just so many other dreams that you have in your life besides just having the same job for 30 years. So it's just okay. People evolve as time goes on. And I hope those people that went to medical school to make their parents happy or did it for the money, if they're not happy now, I hope they pursue something that makes them super happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how have you seen the medical and healthcare landscape evolve throughout all these years? Like you've been studying, you've been into that field. How has it evolved, and what can you expect next?
That is a really... I feel like we have a gag order on all of us doctors. Like we can't really answer that question, but I'll tell you, I have seen, well, so I always thought I was lucky because I was, going out as a privately independent practicing physician for the very first time. I was 32 years old, and it was the year 2002. Okay. So that's when I started with my very first patient. But at the beginning, okay, when I started school in 1992, I could see that doctors actually had this thing called this ability to make their own decisions, and they didn't have to code things the right way, and they could do what they thought was right for the patient. But now I grew up in getting trained this way, so I never knew any different. But now you do things based on what the insurance will cover. And, if you want to, like, I think a patient's had a stroke, and the very first test I want to order is an MRI of the brain. This algorithm is in the computer, and it makes you order, a different test first. They're like, are you sure you want to do that test? This other one's going to save $7,500 or whatever it is. And so, yeah, we just, the ability to make our own decisions has been taken away from us, and the insurance companies make our decisions for us. And I get it, Mike, like we can't run out of money. And I always say Medicare is going to go bankrupt if people just do whatever they, order whatever they want to order. You have to go through this algorithm. But I've seen the older doctors really suffer with that. And they used to be able to keep people as long as they wanted to in the hospital. And now we have something called LOS, which is the length of stay. And we all treat to the LOS. Like you can only treat someone with a gallbladder infection for 3.9 days. You can only treat someone with a stroke for 3.7 days. And then the hospital starts losing money, and they just
Jesus
lay
Christ.
on your butt to get the patient out of there.
Capitalist dystopia.
Yeah. So it's a lot has changed from my teachers to me, but I say fortunately, I never was able to practice doing what I wanted to do. I always treated to the insurance policies. And then the other thing I wanted to say is nowadays I'm so happy to report that everybody doesn't just rely on medicine and prescriptions and surgeries. They actually are looking at things like acupuncture and meditation and essential oils and yoga and all these, treating yourself just with nutrition alone and the power of your mindset. So I've seen a lot of more holistic methods coming into play. So I'm so happy about that because that's what I'm all about.
Get it? Well, I don't know if it's only me, but like the older I get and the more information about the US I get, about the healthcare system, education system, the political system, everything, the less I want to go there.
Well, when I went to Poland, when I went there, my son was 12 and we were going around this big square, some big circular square y'all have. And I remember I was just taking him on a horse and carriage ride. And he said he was looking all around your square and he said,
where was it? What was the city?
I can't remember. It had to be Krakow.
Oh yeah, I get it.
But he just looked around and he said, "Mom, can I live here when I grow up?" I said, "Absolutely," because the person who was leading the tour was talking about how awesome Poland was.
Because it is right now. I can see that it's so safe. We are safer than the US. We are safer than like the West. You're so safe. But right now we have a lot of people from the Ukraine, and it's getting a little out of hand, if I can say that, because, well, we like to be the great hosts, but the hospitality has its limits sometimes, I believe, and the way some people from the Ukraine are behaving right now, it is not in the good manners, if I can say that. So just a quick disclaimer. Anyway, I digress.
Well, I always told myself from that day forward, and my son's going to be 20 next month, so that was 8 years ago. I am fully expecting one day he's going to move to Poland. So I just, y'all are not that far away from me, and I can go back and forth. Flights are not too terribly long or expensive, and so I can make it work.
Well, he's very welcome.
Yeah, thank you. He just got to learn your language, I think.
Oh, it's tough. Yeah, like I believe 80% of Polish people are not able to speak proper Polish language. So don't worry about
it. But y'all, he can't get over there and survive just speaking English, right?
Well, right now, I think he would survive.
Well,
because even if it's the most lousy, hard to understand, grammatically incorrect English, he will get it somehow.
Okay.
With others, so yeah, there's the hope in that.
Yeah.
And what is your view on the American healthcare system right now, in general?
Well, all I can say is we have a huge problem over here with obesity and heart disease and diabetes and kidney problems. And so I think, unfortunately, as a society, I don't know where the disconnect happened. I think it was in 1972. I've really tried to figure it out, what is everybody's problem over here? But they don't take their own health care into their own hands. They put it into the hands of doctors with bottles of pills. And that's just not going to get you anywhere. You're not going to grow, gracefully, and you're not going to grow old like that. So I feel like it's a bankrupt system, and it's we call it sick care instead of health care.
Oh my.
We're just managing sicknesses over here. And so I prefer to deal with the sector of the population that is really into taking care of themselves and taking their health into their own hands, whether it's with diet and exercise or the power of positive thinking or sleep, retreats, all that. So yeah, I don't think it's going so well. I don't have anything really technical to say about it. That's about all I have to say about it. It's a little bit sad.
I get it. We'll become happy, healthy, and skinny and millionaires, but nobody wants to get to work and do it themselves. And because they don't want to do anything, they just eat junk food, play video games, swallow the pills, and just compounds the problem. So they get even more depressed. They spend even more money on the pills, so they have even less money to do something about their life, and the vicious cycle just continues.
Yeah, they think that they are getting healthier by swallowing the pills, but it's not changing the disease process at all. So it's just really sad that they don't realize that they have the power in their own hands by what they put into their mouth or how they move their body. I hired I don't even know how old he is. I think he's 18, but I hired an 18-year-old personal trainer a couple of months ago, and I just started watching what I eat because I had just I went through a divorce a couple of years ago, and I just was emotionally eating. I have to admit, and I was just getting a little fluffy and losing some mobility and not sleeping that well. And so before it got like bad at all, I said I got to take this matter into my own hands. Hired a personal trainer, started watching what I eat, and within 2 months, I'm much more trim. I lost 12 pounds and 10 inches, and I only do something like 3 times a week, and I just watch what I eat. Just try to eat more whole foods, and people make it so complicated, and it doesn't have to be. You know,
Absolutely. The simplest solution is usually the best one. Just to finish on that.
that's right. That's
And
right.
your work focuses significantly on mentoring women over 50. So what are some common challenges in this group? I'm really interested in that. And how do you help these people
Ooh.
solve those problems?
I'll tell you a story of one of my clients. She came to me right after she was 50 years old, and she was in menopause, and she had just stopped becoming an alcoholic. She just cured herself from alcoholism. It's my client Jenny. And if anyone wants to hear her story, she has a funny little testimonial. She's an actress at heart, so she kind of she shot her testimonial in a TikTok fashion. It was really funny. But anyway, it's on my website. But she was emotionally overeating. I think that's what a lot of us do. And we kind of just get into these doldrums where we're not really loving ourselves. Our parents are getting older. We have these, midlife struggles, and she came to me, and we just I really sat her down, accepted her for who she was at that moment. We identified all of her limiting beliefs, and she realized there was this kind of pattern of I'm stuck and depressed that she couldn't get out of. She was on all these medications, stuck in these jobs that she didn't like. And then after my 12-week program, she was able to, like, really, this little, I kind of see it as a little fire I started in her that could be taken out at any moment by a strong wind, but we just kind of kept building it and building it until it was a flame. And now she's an entrepreneur, and she lost 40 pounds, and she's feeling so much better, and she's off of all of her antidepressants and anti-anxiety medicines. And it was all because I believed in her, she believed in her, and I showed her a really simple method of doing those clearings. And now she can do a clearing on something going on in her life as she's driving down the road. And so I think the women in this sector, they have to really realize that wherever they are, that they're not going to be stuck forever, and they have to be willing to kind of roll up their proverbial sleeves and do a little bit of work and believe in themselves, and they can completely change their life around. It doesn't have to be like this beginning of just nothing. I just feel like so many women in that age group, now that their kids are out of the house, they just feel like they have no reason left to live, and nothing could be further from the truth. Like, the world needs all of us 50-year-old women lit up and doing great work in the world,
Yeah. Well, in Poland,
And
there's this syndrome. I don't know if it's called that way in the other countries, but it's a empty nest syndrome. That when
yes.
Yeah. So basically, when the kids are like off to college and you're over 50, and there's this home is so empty and there's like nobody there, and you feel so bad just to do anything.
Yeah, exactly. That is, we are called empty nesters.
Yeah.
I am an empty nester. My kids are, 10th, sophomore and senior year of college, and they'll likely never come back home for more than 5 days at a time. Even when they come home for Christmas break, they just come home for like 5 days, and they go right back to their college town to see their friends. So yeah, the nest is empty. So you have to find something else to live for besides your kids, because if you did your job the right way, Mike, your kids are grown and gone, and they don't need you anymore. So you have to find a new purpose.
Well, I'm yet to have kids.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
postpone that until you're good and ready,
Yeah.
because the same as a college degree, unless you're ready and you're doing it for yourself, it does not ever work out good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is because right now, like every guest on the show that has kids, I'm just asking all these advice and getting all these bits so I can prepare
Yeah.
better for that thing.
Yeah, just wait until it's the right time. And
Absolutely.
but the first thing is you have to have a really great relationship with the mom.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
the hard part, I believe, sometimes.
I know. I think so too.
Well, because right now the world is so weird, I think. Like everyone wants to do
Yeah.
their own thing. Everyone is too scared to talk to the other side. Everyone wants to just, I know, sit by themselves somewhere because their world seems to be too frightening, too, well, I don't know how should I put it, how to describe it right now. It's weird. It's a weird situation.
I know what you're saying. My 21-year-old daughter, she has asked 2 guys out this week. She just, she takes ballroom dancing at college, and there are 2 guys. They smell really good and they're really good dancers and they dress really well. So she asked both of them out for coffee. She said, I cannot even imagine a guy coming up to me and saying, "Hey, I just noticed you in class. Do you want to go out and get coffee sometime?" Like she said, everybody is just so, I don't know. It sounds like she's saying self-absorbed and quiet, but she's just really bold. She knows that she wants somebody, and so she's just going to have to be the bold person and do, I guess, what would typically be the guy thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I get that. I also believe that the guy should ask the girl out. But
Yeah.
right now, in the post-Me Too world, when every guy basically just is so scared to be accused of some sort of nasty thing and get canceled on like Twitter somewhere, like I understand both perspectives right now.
Yes. It is a weird world we live in.
Okay, back to the like normal stuff, let's say.
Yes.
How does your average Tuesday look like? Because there's this thing from Tim Ferriss that he says you don't need to strive for something extraordinary. Just make your average Tuesday be as good as you can possibly get it. So how does your average Tuesday look like?
Is today Tuesday or is today Monday? Oh, Monday.
Yes,
Today's Monday.
Monday, yeah.
Because I was going to say, this is what my average Tuesday looks like. So I have an accountability partner named Melissa. I meet with at 8:30 in the morning. So I probably wake up about an hour before that, have some coffee. I do this gratitude practice lying in my bed. And I am grateful for things I can touch and see and feel with all my senses. And then I'm grateful for my future life, whatever my future life is. And then I'm also, the third layer of my gratitude practice is I'm grateful for the problems that come with that preferred life. So the Facebook ads not working, or a client being disgruntled, or a website, a link getting broken for my booking link. I'm grateful for that because that means I've made it, So I start my day, gratitude practice. I'd have some coffee, some quiet time. I meet with my accountability partner. I'm always in a course. I'm always in some sort of a course of some sort. So in the middle of the day, I am probably going to be in like an hour and a half course for it's usually online business building or mindset work. And then try to eat healthy in between all these things. I'm eating healthy. I'm drinking water all the time. Try to get some movement in, 10,000 steps a day. And in the evening, I meet with my executive coach, my counselor that I've been seeing every week for 3 years now. And at night, I'm trying to reach out and see who else I can help through the podcasting world, and getting ready for a hospice meeting the next day because I'm a medical director of a hospice. And I try to go to bed like at 9 o'clock. It might sound really boring, but that's my typical Tuesday.
Well, you sound like a normal working person that wants to get to the top.
Yeah, I just want to I want to make a difference in the world. So I build myself up. I'm in business. Yeah, all those things. And, but sleep and water and good nutrition and movement are really important. And I should say, I also squeeze in an hour probably on Tuesdays with that personal trainer. He normally meets me 3 days a week, and Tuesday's one of those meetings. So lift weights, either upper body, or I do a push day, a pull day, and then a lower body. So that's it.
Go pump that iron, pound
Yeah,
that iron.
try to I don't want to say reverse the aging process, but if you don't use it, you're going to lose it, and we got to keep ourselves mobile.
I was about to ask you last two questions, but have you heard about Brian Johnson?
Right, refresh my memory. Maybe it doesn't ring a bell.
There's this guy on YouTube and on the internet right now that just his main goal in life, main mission is to reverse aging, and he's doing all these crazy stuff like, I know, red light therapy, needle therapy. I know recently there just was this controversy that he was like transfusing the blood from his son to like his veins to make himself younger, and he's doing all those weird routines. He's like measuring his nighttime erections. He's just, I don't know, so many weird stuff. And like all his tests seem to be all right, and like he was actually younger than he is, so it's pretty weird. I don't know how much truth is in that. I haven't seen those tests, so like take it with a grain of salt, but there is the guy on YouTube like that, so maybe you should check him out.
Brian Johnson. All right, I'll check him out. I cannot imagine someone getting blood from their baby just to inject to themselves. So that actually is
not a baby. He's like 17 or 18-year-old son, so just it's not a baby.
Still putting a needle into your son so that you can reverse your aging process. Yeah. I will do things like I don't own them right now, but those blue blocker glasses, Swannies. Okay. You know, where you can stop seeing all this blue light off of the computer screens because it helps you with your melatonin production. And then I will go out and expose my eyes to the sunlight in between 8 and 8:30 in the morning for a few minutes.
Huberman pill.
Huh?
Huberman pill.
Yes. But I just I'm not gonna go and inject myself with a young person's blood.
Well, you should check it out. Anyway, what's an unconventional piece of advice that you could share that would help your younger self, let's say?
Well, I would say, again, this might sound a little woo or spiritual, but I would say to listen to your spirit guides. I feel like whether you want to call it the Holy Spirit or whether you want to call it spirit guides, I feel like there are ancestors that have gone before us, and they are here to help us and guide us with their wisdom and try to listen. I never knew anything like that when I was younger. So I would just say to try to listen to your inner knower, whatever you want to call that, inner knower, Holy Spirit, or spirit guides, but this inner wisdom that's in you, that's leading you through like assistance and peace and like an effortlessness, so you can stay in flow instead of efforting yourself to death. Because I feel like I really spent a lot of my life efforting myself to death, and I didn't have to do that.
Okay. And one last thing, what is your one favorite quote that helps you in your life the most?
I've been thinking about this one, and I was going to say there's so many, but one that my daughter and I like a lot right now is, right now you're exactly where you need to be. And why that's so important to me is that so many people wish their life was a different way, or they wish they were further along than they are right now. And if you can just trust that you're on the right path, then you won't be so frustrated when things aren't happening exactly like you're supposed to. Like, let's say you don't have 500 followers or 500 clients right now, but you have 5. We'll take care of those 5. And then those 5 can tell people, and then one day you'll have 500. But right now you need to have 5 because you're building these skills instead of just saying, oh man, I'm not at 500, like things like that. And I just think we can spare ourselves a lot of suffering in the world if we just know that right now we are where we need to be.
Absolutely. Great way to end. Wow. Dr. Stark, ladies and gentlemen, where should people go if they want to know more about you and the work that you do?
Yes, I just always refer people to my website, drcindystark.com. It's just my name. There's no period after doctor, and then there is an E on Stark. And there you can book a call with me. I have 15-minute, like a free, I call it a spark call. and we can just see if there's any way that I can help you. There's my book is on there and my Facebook contacts and all that stuff. So yeah, my website is the best place. And I have a 30-minute training there that goes all into my healing method that I help people with to rewire their subconscious mind.
Awesome. Cindy, thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for having me.
So, ladies and gents, that'll be it from this episode. I hope I provided some value to you. If so, please share the podcast with anyone that will benefit from it. And remember that on both Spotify and Apple, you can leave us up to a 5-star review. This helps the show tremendously and doesn't cost you anything. Please also remember to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes when they come out. But just a quick mention before you take off. Would you mind getting a short email from me that's packed with goodies, value, and a bunch of cool stuff I recently learned? Easy to sign up, easy to cancel, and absolutely free, with a bonus of only 5 minutes of reading time. So, if you'd like to receive value for free, go to thetop.how/newsletter. Again, that's thetop.how/newsletter. But now, I wish you an incredible rest of the week. Remember to surpass your limits and that winners are made in the darkest of times. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.